The Bible. It's a collection of ancient texts, prophecies, poetry, history, and letters. It holds stories of kings, shepherds, wars, and miracles. But for many, the Bible remains an unopened mystery. Here at The Bible Explained, we're not just reading verses, we're exploring the cultural bedrock and the dramatic narrative woven through its 66 books. Hit that subscribe button and let the journey begin.
Today, we're diving into a promise made 4,000 years ago. Just a single vow that would go on to shape empires, define 3 of the world's major religions, and, believe it or not, still influences global events right now. But you gotta wonder, right? Can a promise from the Bronze Age really still be in effect today? And if it is, what does that even mean for us? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out. To really get this promise, we've got to start with the man who received it. So let's go all the way back to the beginning, to a man named Abraham. Now, before we even get to the promise itself, there's this really cool historical puzzle. The Bible says Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees. For a long, long time, everyone just assumed that meant the famous Sumerian city of Ur, way down south near the Persian Gulf. But look at the journey from there up to Haran and then down to Canaan. It's this huge, kind of illogical detour. More recently, some scholars have suggested a different spot, the city of Urkish up in the north. And as you can see, that route to Canaan is way more direct. It just makes a lot more sense geographically. So, whichever Ur he came from, this is where the story really kicks off. A man named Abram gets this divine call that is going to change everything, not just for him, but for history. The command is simple but huge. Leave your country, your people, and your father's household. And in return for this radical act of faith, God makes this absolutely monumental 3-part promise. First, there's the seed promise. Abram's descendants will become a great nation, just countless people. Second, the land promise. They will get a specific piece of real estate. And third, the blessing promise. Through Abram, somehow this blessing would spread to all the families on earth. These 3 pillars, seed, land, and blessing, you're going to want to remember them. They are the foundation for everything. Okay, but this leads to a huge question that people have debated for centuries. Was this promise an ironclad, unbreakable vow from God, no matter what? Or did it depend on people holding up their end of the bargain? Let's look at the first side of that argument, the case for it being an unconditional promise. The key idea here is something called a unilateral covenant. Now, that sounds complicated, but think of it this way. A normal contract is a 2-way street, right? Both people have to do something. But in a unilateral covenant, one party, in this case God, steps up and basically says, you know what? I am taking on the full responsibility to make this happen, no matter what you do. And wow, do we see this idea play out in a super dramatic way. In Genesis 15, the promise gets sealed in this very strange and serious ancient ceremony. Picture this. Animals are cut in half, and a path is made between the pieces. Now back then, both parties would usually walk that path together, kind of saying, if I break this vow, may this happen to me. But here, something incredible happens. God puts Abram into a deep sleep, so he's just watching, he can't participate. Then, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch, symbols of God's presence, pass between those pieces alone. The meaning here is just staggering. As this quote puts it, God alone took on the oath, which means he took the entire burden of keeping the covenant. In other words, God is putting his own existence on the line. He's saying, this one's on me. I will make this happen. It is the ultimate divine guarantee. But wait, just when you think it's all figured out, the story throws a curveball. Other parts of the story seem to suggest that, yeah, human action and faith weren't just nice to have, they were actually required. This is the other side of the big debate. And this is where you can really feel the tension. On one side, you have that powerful argument for it being unconditional. God's solo walk, his repeated I will statements. But on the other side, you've got some pretty strong evidence that it was conditional. Abraham is told he has to walk blamelessly. He's given the required sign of circumcision. And later, God literally says the blessing is confirmed because you have obeyed. So, which one is it? So how do we make sense of this? Well, a lot of people suggest looking at it like this. The promise itself is a pure gift. It's grace. It can't be earned. So Abraham's obedience, then, isn't the price he has to pay for the promise. Instead, it's the proof that his faith in that promise is real. It's the response to the gift, not the reason he got it in the first place.
And to make this special relationship official, two key signs were put in place. The first was circumcision, a permanent physical mark for every guy in the community. The second was this amazing symbolic transformation of their very identity through name changes. Abram, which means exalted father, becomes Abram, father of a multitude. And his wife Sarai, or my princess, becomes Sarah, a princess to all nations. Their new names were a constant reminder of their new destiny.
And get this, there's this incredible little detail hidden right there in their names. The change to both Abram and Sarai's names involved adding the Hebrew letter He. So why is that a big deal? Because He is one of the key letters in God's own sacred name, Yahweh. The thinking is that it's like God is literally breathing a piece of his own life-giving spirit into this old, barren couple to supernaturally make the impossible promise come true.
So, after the promise, the strange ceremony, and all the tests of faith, we have to ask the biggest question of all. Was the covenant actually kept? And the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's a story that unfolds over thousands of years. The fulfillment of this promise is often described as already and not yet. It happens in stages. Let's walk through it. First, you get a historical fulfillment of the land promise around 1400 BCE when Israel enters Canaan. Much later, around 33 CE, Christians see the seed promise fulfilled in Jesus. Right now, today, that blessing promise is seen as being fulfilled as the message spreads to all nations. And then, looking to the future, many believe the land promise finds its ultimate fulfillment in a new heaven and new earth.
So you see what happens? As the story of the Bible unfolds, these original promises they get bigger, they expand. That specific piece of land in Canaan starts to look more like a down payment on a much bigger inheritance, the whole world. And the focus on physical descendants broadens to include a spiritual family, people united by faith, not blood. And that blessing for just one nation is revealed to be a universal salvation for everyone. The original promises were like shadows, pointing to something even greater. And all of this brings us right up to today and the truly mind-blowing global legacy of this one covenant made with one man 4,000 years ago.
The figure of Abraham, or Ibrahim as he's known in Arabic, is absolutely foundational to three of the world's largest religions, but with some really important differences. In Judaism and Christianity, the covenant line flows through his son Isaac, who's also seen as the son to be sacrificed. The geography stays focused on Canaan. But in Islam, the main lineage is traced through his other son, Ishmael, who is traditionally seen as the one intended for sacrifice. The geography also expands to include Mecca. So while everyone agrees he's a model of faith, one tradition sees him as the father of a specific covenant people, while the other sees him as the original monotheist, a Hanif, who submitted to God long before Judaism or Islam even existed.
And the result of these different paths is just astounding. Today, more than half of the people on the planet belong to a faith that traces its spiritual roots right back to this one man. The legacy of that 4,000-year-old promise isn't just some old story. It's a living reality for billions of people. Which brings us all the way back to where we started, but with one last big idea to chew on. What actually makes a promise last forever? Is it the incredible power of the one who makes it, or is it the stubborn faith of the one who receives it? The story of Abraham's covenant seems to suggest that maybe, just maybe, the answer isn't either or, but a profound and mysterious both.
The Bible isn't just a history book. It's a living, challenging text. As you reflect on what we covered today regarding this topic, consider how this new context changes your reading of the verses. If you appreciated this breakdown, sharing it with just one friend who struggles with understanding the Bible is the best way you can support the channel. Subscribe for more, click here for your next explanation, and never stop seeking clarity. Until next time.